everybody. This is Rick Prokop at Piano Power Lessons. In the previous lesson on tritone substitutes, we used the tritone BF in terms of a G7th chord, and then we inverted it to FC flat in terms of a D flat 7th chord. We also realized that this seemingly D flat 7th chord was really a G7th chord with a flat 5 and a flat 9, and here's the tritone. Therefore, it could resolve to C. And then we went over the various scales, namely the altered mixolydian scale that could go with both the G7th chord or the D flat 7th chord. They were two different scales. We're going to do the same thing today with this tritone, and if we look at it as an F sharp C, then we say, well, this is a D7th. But if we flip it over and we look at it as a C and a G flat, then we say, no, this could be an A flat 7th. And the A flat 7th is a disguised D7th, right? So here's the tritone, here's a flat 9, and here's a flat 5. And they will both resolve to G. So the D7th will resolve to a G, and the A flat, seemingly A flat 7th, will also resolve to a G because it's really not an A flat 7th. I should say it's not functioning as an A flat 7th. So looking at it as D7th, why don't we take this chord in the left hand, and this is a D ninth. So we have the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th, and it functions as a 5 chord. It's, instead of writing 5-7, you'd write 5-9, and that implies that the 7th is also there. And then we're going to resolve this up to a regular G major 7th chord. So why don't you just practice that? F sharp A C E, that's your 5 chord, and then G B D F sharp is your 1 chord. And then we're going to come down to a G 6th chord, which still functions as a stable 1 chord. So since both of these chords are functional or operate naturally in the key of G, it would make sense that if we were to improvise something over those chords, we could just use the G scale. And if we take that same G scale and instead of starting on G, start on D, we have what's called the mixolydian mode, as we found out in the prior lesson. So using that unaltered mixolydian mode, we could get something that sounds like this. Try again. Okay, and that sounds perfectly okay. But we do have a conflict. This 4th note doesn't sound great against this F sharp down here. So like in the previous lesson, we have to raise that 4th note up to a G sharp. And now we have a really nice sounding note, and all of the notes now in this altered mixolydian scale, this, all sound good against this D7th chord or D ninth chord in the bass. So now we could have something like this. Okay, I eliminated the G. off the bat, you notice by raising this note, this G to a G sharp, we can now use a D triad or an E major triad in our line. So now we can have something like this, and I'll play it for you very slowly. D triad, E triad, okay, and a little faster. We could also fashion a hybrid scale that includes both the G and the G sharp. Play that slowly for you. We could also invent a scale that doesn't have the E. And then try to do something creative with that. All right, so let's take a look at this tritone now in terms of it being an A flat chord. So I'll put it up here for now. So you have, instead of F sharp and C, you now have G flat and C. A flat is the root. And so the chord down here an octave lower is going to be this. And what we have here is A flat, C, E flat. This is another rootless 5 chord. We have A flat is the root. The C is here, the third. The 5th is missing. The 7th is here, the G flat. The B flat is the 9th. And the F is the 13th. So it's A flat 13th. So we're going to use that chord down here now. G flat, B flat, C, F, seemingly an A flat 13th, which is really a D 7th, right? To a G. Let me go over that again with you. In terms of D, we have the F sharp, which is the third. What we looked at as a B flat before, we can now look at as an A sharp and say, well, this is D augmented. D, F sharp, A sharp. The 7th is there because the tritone is there. And then in terms of D, the 9th is an E, so this is an E sharp, which is a sharp 9. So it's a D augmented 7th. It's a Jimi Hendrix chord with the sharp 9, and it resolves up to a G. So what scale can we play with this seeming A flat 13th here? And well, you say, well, A flat 13th, it implies that it's an A flat 7th, that it's a dominant 7th chord. It's just 13th is just a color tone. So this is the 5 chord of D flat major. All right. And if we start that D flat major scale on its 5th step, which is A flat, remember, because we're perceiving this as if it's an A flat 13th, or we play the D flat scale going up from A flat. And it sounds pretty good. So using that D flat scale, we could come up with something like this. Okay. that sounds pretty good. But it was pretty obvious in that example that this D flat didn't sound that great. And it might have sounded nice with might have sounded much better with that D. So in this case, we take the D flat scale, starting on A flat, which is A flat mixolydian, and we raise the D flat to a D natural. And that's our altered A flat mixolydian scale. And when practicing this in terms of groups, it's easiest, let's see, to use this big group here. So F through the B flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat. So that's your first group. And then your second group is simply C, D, E flat. Okay? And then practice starting this at different points. So here, if we start on the G flat, okay, this is this part of that group. And then we have the C, D, E flat group. All right, and start on the A flat. And you just want to ingrain these things into your brain. The more you do it, the more it becomes automatic. Now we're going to go B flat to B flat. There's the first group, right? B flat's an ending, new group, new group. And here's a nice little line you could use using that altered mixolydian, starting on A flat. Okay. And remember, in this scale, we have the A flat major and the B flat major chords that sound great. So let me play a little line using A flat major and B flat major. So we have something like this. And what's amazing is that on this 5 chord, you're watching this, and you're saying to yourself, how could this possibly be the key of G? And of course it is, and it fits in perfectly. And it adds just so much color to your playing. Once again. Okay. So you have to, what I said in a previous lesson, you have to futz around with these scales, Find something that fits your personality. And just by playing these scales doesn't mean it's automatically music. You have to find your own voice. You have to find a way to communicate something that sounds like a legitimate story that you're telling using these new tools. So anyone can just play really quickly, but it's just a bunch of triads, and it really doesn't have much meaning unless it makes some sense in the context of some larger story that you're telling with your line. Here's a little 3-note pattern you could use using that scale. Watch again. A little faster. Well, that's it for today, and I hope you join me for the next lesson when we'll do the third tritone that has 2 roots. So far we've used this tritone with the roots G and D flat, and now we've used this tritone with the roots D and A flat. So I hope you tune in and join me next time. And I hope you have a great day.